Chapter 8. Names in the Wind and Shadows at the Gate. The dawn air held a soft promise the morning of the naming ceremony. Under the guava tree, colorful cloths were draped from low branches. Garlands of marigold and bougainvillea wove between the trunks. The wildflower garden buzzed with anticipation. Bees flitted among basil blooms, and the scent of jasmine drifted on the breeze. Today was Nyasha's naming ceremony. In the Kinyonga tradition of Muzani, a child's name is spoken into being by elders, each blessing carried on the wind. Mama Chepo brought homemade millet porridge to share. Chiku arrived with a tiny pot of native violets, seedlings for Nyasha's future flower bed. Blessing and Sifa embroidered a small banner with the Swahili name they'd chosen, Nyasha Upendo, Grace of Love. A camel skin drum sounded, steady heartbeat, calling everyone to circle around the child. Amina cradled Nyasha in her arms. Lindiwe stood at her side, head held high. Lila and Zawadi formed the other side of the circle, faces soft with pride. One by one, elders stepped forward. Mama Halima laid a hand on Nyasha's cheek. May you always taste sweetness in life's bitter moments. Muziadongo placed a bracelet of woven grass on her wrist. May your roots run deep, and may your courage rise even higher. Chiku whispered into the child's ear while tucking the violet pot at her feet. May you know your place in every ecosystem, human, plant, and spirit. Finally, Amina spoke. Her voice trembled as she whispered the first part of the name, Nyasha, releasing her daughter's laughter into the sky. Lindiwe followed. Upendo, her tone both fierce and tender. A wind stirred, lifting petals into the air. The community exhaled together, and the child, wrapped in song and flower, was named. Their joy, however, was not left in peace. That afternoon, as the last porridge pot was cleaned, and guests began to depart, the village radio crackled to life with urgent news. Tundani County Council has announced plans to rezone agricultural land along King Ridge for commercial development. Land currently under smallholder plots, including those of the Wildflower Healing Network, may be subject to compulsory acquisition. A hush fell over the clearing. Lindue's hand closed around Amina's. Nyasha clung to her mother's wrap, sensing the tension. Even the bees quieted. Across the ridge, metal drums marked the corners of neighboring fields, survey stakes for the new zoning boundary. The land they'd fought to protect, cultivated as sanctuary and medicine, was now officially under threat of seizure. That evening, under lantern light, the Wildflower core circle convened beneath the neem tree. The namesake plants trembled in the breeze, as if trembling with them. Chiku unfurled a map of the rezoning plan. They've drawn a line that cuts through 3 healing sites. Ours is among the first. Mzee Dongo slammed his cane on the ground. Not on my watch. We wrote the history of this land with our sweat and our seeds. Mama Chipo offered tamarind tea. We heal in community. We can organize 10 circles tomorrow, 1 for each contested plot, and invite witnesses. Amina stood, clearing her throat. We've fed people, healed people, named people. Now we have to speak as fiercely as the land speaks to us. We'll petition, we'll protest, we'll bring media attention, we'll call the Wavuli network across the province. Lindiwe added, voice steady. We will not let them strip away a name. She glanced at Nyasha, asleep in her mother's arms. We will not let them unwrite what we have written into the soil. The next morning, they scattered seeds along the survey stakes, sunflowers at each corner, wild basil between every 2 stakes, and marigolds at the center of each proposed plot. An act of joyful defiance. Neighbors joined in, women in woven kanga, elders in crisp shirts, children with watering cans. They chanted in Swahili.
Sisi ni asili.
Sisi ni mizizi. Hapa ni nyumbani yetu.
We are nature.
We are roots. This is our home. The song rippled through the fields like a living fence. By month end, word of the flower protest had spread to MG Mompana. A local news crew arrived, capturing footage of the stakes festooned in blossoms, of children dancing around surveyors too bewildered to intervene. One night, Layla walked the ridge with Amina and Lindiwe. The stakes glowed faintly under lanterns, each one crowned with petals. Softly, she said, "You've taught me to treat myself with kindness and stand up with courage for what is right." Amina rested her head on her mother's shoulder. Lindiwe wrapped an arm around both of them. Seeds can break concrete. They just need time. A gust of wind carried the scent of marigold and sage. And on Kiunga Ridge, under the sky they had named together, they planted the next chapter of their story. One of names, of seeds, and of unwavering resistance. The rains came late that year, but when they came hard. Thunder cracked like a judge's gavel. The ridges of Kiunga turned slick with red mud. Basil flattened. Marigold petals scattered like confetti in a storm. Children squealed and danced barefoot in puddles. Grown folk dug trenches, rerouted runoff, and whispered prayers under breath. But water wasn't the only thing flooding the ridge. The county's ultimatum arrived sealed and stamped. Vacate the contested plots within 30 days to allow for road grading and preliminary survey works for commercial development. 30 days. To abandon what had taken years to build. To uproot sanctuaries grown with sweat and ceremony. The next Wildflower network circle met under canvas tarps stretched between jacarandas. Rain drummed overhead, steady and defiant. Amina held the letter in one hand, her other clutching her herbal notebook. They're calling it progress, but they're building over memories, over stories. Remembering, Mama Chepo added. They've done it before. We've buried songs beneath concrete. Then maybe we need a louder song. Blessing added. They formed task teams. Chiku and Sifa would travel to MG Mumpana to deliver a petition to the County Lands Board. Amina would write op-eds. Lindiwe would rally the Wavuli cooperatives, calling for land justice solidarity. Layla offered to reach out to retired civil servants she once knew, people who owed her quiet favors. Even as they organized, the garden changed. Tomatoes rotted in standing water. A row of cassava vanished in a landslide near the lower slope. And yet, new growth pushed up where no one had planted. Wild kale, healing sorrel, wandering lemongrass. The soil, like the people who tended it, refused to be silenced. Amina had begun a new project, the Root Archive. She and Jabari, who had started asking deeper questions about land and justice, began cataloging plants and their histories. Every herb we grow has a story. Every plant we've shared is a witness. She wrote, "These roots remember joy and pain. They've grown through drought and against bulldozers. This is not just land, it is a living record of resistance." The Root Archive traveled to the local community library, then to a small university exhibit in Kasaru. One night, Amina found Jabari sketching the garden in his notebook. "I'm drawing it in case they try to forget it." But while the world buzzed with petitions and protest plans, Lindiwe sat in their bedroom one night and wrote a letter. Not for the government, not for a newspaper, to her son. "Dear Jabari, if we lose this land, I want you to know that nothing we grew here disappears. Even if they raze every marigold and burn every basil stalk, you still carry the map. In your hands, in your eyes. I want you to know that some storms are worth standing in, and sometimes we don't win, but we witness. We hold each other, and we replant. Love is the only harvest they can't touch. Mama." She folded it and placed it in a box marked, "Open when you are older." On the 23rd day of the 30-day notice, something unexpected happened. An anonymous leak reached the cooperative. A report. Hidden pages from a zoning plan. It showed what many had suspected. The development project was not for schools or clinics or community roads. It was for a private golf course and luxury villas, backed by international investors and a local politician's cousin. The news exploded. Suddenly journalists cared. Suddenly the county's tone changed. Suddenly the network was not just seen as soft-hearted dreamers, but as strategic defenders of ancestral land. The council postponed the eviction. Not cancelled, but postponed. A crack. Not enough, but something. They didn't celebrate. Not yet. Instead, they gathered by the fire pit that night, hyphen-soaked skies, with damp logs and thick blankets, and made tea from wild mint and cinnamon bark. The children roasted maize, Lindiwe read poems, Chiku strummed a handmade lyre, and Amina, watching her family and kin flicker in firelight, thought, even if they come again, even if they tear it down, we have already lived here, fully, fiercely. This soil knows us. Rain dripped from the trees, and the fire kept burning anyway.
This is QueerAfrique, where African queer stories bloom boldly. Subscribe to witness more. Share this story and let's gather around the fire. Until next time.